Hey everybody, welcome to Sound Bombing. I created this show for people who want to experience a radical, life-changing journey through the sounds of my diverse guests. I hope that each sound you hear on this show will strengthen your faith, encourage your dreams, and challenge you to awaken the greatness within you.
Drop the bombs. Drop the bomb. We're gonna drop the bomb. Drop the bomb. We're gonna drop the bomb. Drop the bomb. We come to drop the bomb. Drop the bomb.
This is a journey into sound. A journey which along the way will bring to you new color, new dimension, new values, and a new experience.
Lamar Darnell Shields.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time of the day. Welcome to my channel. I am your host, Dr. Lamar Darnell Shields, the creator of Sound Bombing. And my goal with this amazing show is to introduce you to people with ideas that will help you unlock your full potential. And if you listened to the show last week, you listened to Michelle Go Big, and she went big all the way from Germany. Well, she wasn't really in Germany, but she's German, but living in the US. But she provided us with some amazing, amazing ideas, and I'm so grateful and honored that I had her on. And today is no different. You can see my guest right there. I'm going to introduce her shortly, but I want to welcome you back into the BalmShelter. I want to thank you all for joining me. Like Jay-Z said, you could be anywhere in the world, but you're with me today. Welcome to the most exciting hour of your day. Yes, I'm bold enough to say that, not because I'm doing anything amazing. It's because I have such amazing guests that come on the show, and today is no different. And before we get started, you all know what we do. I'm sure my folks out there in virtual land, my OGs, my old heads, my old bombers, you are already ready. You got your 2 feet on the floor. You got your palms facing up. You're rolling your shoulders back. To my new babies out there, to my new virtual listeners, palms on your lap, shoulders roll back. As my third graders used to say, sit up, sit back, roll your shoulders back and relax, and let your palms sit on your hands. Let your palms sit in your lap. And we're going to slowly close our eyes, and we're going to take our 3 breaths. And we're going to start off with inhale. Hold it for 3 seconds. Exhale. Go a little deeper. Inhale for 5 seconds. Hold it. Exhale. This one we're going to go a little deeper. 10 seconds. Inhale. Exhale. And sound bombers, what is that called? That is called the breath of life. And we always start our show off with that, because I don't know what type of energy that you're bringing, and you don't know what type of energy I'm bringing. Well, you probably know I'm going to always bring some positive energy. And so I like to start out with the breath of life. And what that says is that we are here. Somebody didn't make it today. We are here because of COVID. Somebody didn't make it today, or for whatever reason, but you are here, and I don't want to waste your time. So let's get started. You know, I always start out with some questions. So here we go. Do you ever feel like you have the potential to do great things with your life, but you just aren't sure how to start? Have you ever wondered how you can maximize your current role while also striving for your future career opportunities or business opportunities? If you want to see your career propel exponentially, you always need to continue learning and growing. This does not mean that you should get another degree or take time out for a career, but by taking matters into your own hands right here, by taking matters into your own hands and working to make sure you are employable. Did you hear? Employable and upwardly mobile as possible. You give yourself the best possible chance to reach any career goal you set. But you must continuously rethink the way you present yourself. Like, look at me, I'm presenting myself wearing my Ubuntu shirt, my great Puma hat, because today I'm just rocking my black and gray. But our next guest, Kris Holmes, who I'm sure you're sitting there looking at like, who is this beautiful lady in the BalmShelter? Kris Holmes will give us a few pointers. Well, probably she's going to give us a lot of pointers about taking action in order to boost your career. You hear that? Boosting your career. Before you know it, you will have that promotion, land your dream job, or create a successful business of your own. Well, you probably like, who in a ham sandwich is Kris Holmes? I'm so glad that you asked. Kris is an executive recruiter and partner at O'Connell Group, a leading executive search firm in consumer marketing and market research with more than 25 years of experience. She is also a member of the Pinnacle Society, the premier consortium of industry-leading recruiters in North America. Kris has counseled tens of thousands of candidates. And look, she's joining us today, now 10,001, in setting goals and leveraging their strength before shifting to recruiting. Kris worked for decades in consumer marketing with major corporations like Johnson & Johnson, Kraft Foods, Ralston Purina. She's a graduate of Tufts University. Kris, my great roommate, Sharia Dow, graduated from Tufts. She has an MBA from Kellogg School of Management. Let me just tell you, the sister is amazing. And check this out. She is the author of the best-selling book, Ignite Your Career, Strategies and Tactics to Unleash Your Potential. Kris Holmes, welcome to the BalmShelter. How are you?
I am awesome, Lamar. Thank you so much.
So let our listeners know two things. Where you calling in from? Because you are not in a physical bomb shelter, because I could have COVID, you could have COVID, but we're COVID free. So we want to keep each other safe. We have families. And let our people know how you are doing since this pandemic has driven us all crazy.
Absolutely. So I am calling in from St. Louis, Missouri.
St. Louis?
Yeah. The O'Connell Group has two offices, one here and one in Connecticut. And, you know, it's a mixed bag. Just like everybody else, I have good days and bad days. The recruiting business is a little bit soft as companies are trying to figure out how they're hiring. But what we've tried to do is figure out how do we still stay productive and come out of this in a really good place by doing the things we wanted to do but didn't have time to. Updating phones, updating computer systems. I finished the book, launched the website with all the services. So whatever I can do to feel good about what I'm doing when part of my business I can't control. And family is healthy and happy and, you know, dealing with this as best they can.
Well, Kris, St. Louis is one of my favorite cities because I'm from the great city of Chicago. So I'm a Midwesterner like you. Been to the Arc, been to the St. Now, I'm a Cubs fan, okay? So I got to say that. And so if you all don't know, the Cubs and the St. Louis Cardinals, they go back and forth, back and forth. I spent a lot of time there working with the school district. Because of COVID, we're not there working. We're working virtually with them. So I spent a lot of time. You all have some amazing vegan restaurants. I love St. Louis. My college roommate, not the one that went to Tufts, shout out to my great roommate, Sharia Dow. That was my roommate when I graduated from college, but my roommate, Malik Hall, tons of friends in St. Louis. So St. Louis, and then I used to love going to Six Flags back in the day, coming to St. Louis from Chicago. It seemed like it was such a long trip. You know, when you were a kid driving, you just couldn't wait to get there. So I loved hanging out. And let me just tell you, for those who don't know, St. Louis gets hot as hell. Hot. And cold, hot and cold. The Mississippi River right there running through it. So thank you for joining me today. I'm so excited about you hanging out. So you went to Tufts. Shout out to Tufts. Did you like the East Coast? Did you like it? Well, the New England area. Did you like that area?
You know what? I loved it. I absolutely adored Tufts, and I have had 2 out of my 3 kids go to school in, you know, Northwestern Massachusetts. So we've been up there a bunch. My firm is in Connecticut, so I love New England.
And then you went to Northwestern, so you hanging out in the city of Chicago. So we have some roots together. I have so much to ask you. I'm so excited that you joined me. So let's talk about your background. I mean, you've done so many great things prior to working with this firm. We're going to talk about your amazing book. Talk to me about your background and how did it prepare you to do what you're doing right now?
Great question, Lamar. So, you know, I was lucky enough to go to Kellogg after working a couple years out of undergrad and went into marketing, into what's called CPG or brand marketing, and loved it and was really good at parts of my job and not so great, or I went to work really hard at other parts of my job. And fast forward 10 years, and over a long weekend, both my husband and my companies got sold. We were in St. Louis. And
Wait, your husband got sold?
he got sold too. Yeah, talk about
So we selling husbands in St. Louis now?
But so what happened was I had to look for a job. We decided we wanted to stay in St. Louis. I interviewed with a couple marketing roles, but as I looked at the role above mine, the director role, most people were dying for it. It made me really uncomfortable because it was politics and analytics and some things that I didn't like as much. And at the same time, I reached out to my very favorite recruiter and said, hey, we want to stay in St. Louis. Help me find a job. And he threw out, come work for me. He had started his own firm about a year before. That really shocked me. But what it made me do was sit back and think, in all my past jobs, what did I love and what did I hate? And I wrote down 2 lists. And what came out of that was, I love the people part. I mean, talking to people, working with people, independent of what I was doing, that was where I really thrived and enjoyed myself. And talking to mentors, they thought I'd be good. And if I didn't like it after a year, I could always come back. And I felt like there was no job out there, that dealt with people more than recruiters. So I decided to give it a try. And Lamar, the weirdest thing was from day one, it felt like breathing. It felt so natural and comfortable and easy. And I would tell my husband, I can't believe I'm being paid for talking to people and forming friendships and helping them. And I realized that it was easy because it leveraged my strengths. It aligned with what I was naturally good at. So it was fun and I could be successful. And that was a huge learning for me.
So what do you enjoy about people, hanging out, talking with people, engaging people? What are some things that you enjoy? And then what are some things that you're learning about people just naturally that many people may have in common as it relates to having these conversations with them?
Yeah, that's great. So what I enjoy is connecting with people and not just professionally, but personally, building that bond. I enjoy helping them peel back the onion to really figure out what they love doing and where they want to go, what's really critical to them. And then I enjoy helping them achieve their goals. And sometimes that means I'm placing them. Sometimes it means I'm counseling them as they have internal opportunities and helping them see which one's going to set them up for greatest success. But with the O'Connell Group, the way we operate is it's a long-term play. And so it's not about making a placement or ringing a bell right now. It's about building that relationship, helping them further their career, and eventually hoping to help them fill their roles as they get to a senior level. So those are the things that I love. And tell me the second question again, because I have to tell you I forgot.
So the second is like, what are some things that you're finding the commonality around people that you sort of engage, from people from all walks of life, sexual preferences, religious, cultural, Midwest, Southwest, East Coast? What are some commonalities that you find that people sort of share with one another? Because right now, Kris, we are in a time where we are more separate than ever. Yeah. And so you are in a position where you're engaging people and you're meeting people in different walks of life. And you said that you're a natural communicator. What are some commonalities that you're seeing that people have across the board that we may not see?
I think during this time, it's really given people time to self-reflect and figure out what's important and why. While some people used to think it was being in the big city and the social life and going to the bars and restaurants, they're really recognizing that the connections with people they love is most important. And so I have people really rethinking where they want to take their career and what their priorities are. It used to be, for many people, climbing up the corporate ladder as fast as possible. And now it may be shifting to, I still want to have a productive career, but being close to family is really important. The other thing this is really giving people time to do, as I talk to people, just like I did, is to sit back and figure out, what am I really good at? What are my strengths? And why have I not been knocking out of the park in my current role? Is it because it doesn't align with my strengths? The other thing people are taking a step back to do is truly, if they're lucky enough to be working, assess how is their company doing during these times. Do they feel proud of their organization and like they've been supported, or do they feel like they're expendable and the company hasn't taken care of them? And that's really shifting their loyalty as well. So those are just some common themes that I'm seeing as I talk to people. But everybody is upended. Everybody is uncomfortable.
Mhm.
Everybody is trying to figure out how to make it through. And again, how to be productive somehow.
So let's go.
Yeah.
So no, I really appreciate that. I want to go back to some of the questions because I think
Mhm.
questions are very, very valuable. I'm always quoting Albert Einstein. He talks about, I wish people spent more time on questions and answers. What are some of the questions that we should be asking ourselves to figure out, one, if we're living to our full potential? I know that is, we're going to talk about your book in a second, but you asked a couple of questions. What are some questions that I should be asking myself? What are some questions that my listeners should be asking themselves to talk about if they're living up to their full potential? Not only just a full potential in a career, but we're talking about full potential in life in general.
Yeah. So there is the personal side and there's the professional side.
Mhm.
And I think on the personal side, it's what is important to you. What are your goals? What are your aspirations? At different points in your life, personal may be more important than professional, and they may bounce back and forth. So where are you today in that journey personally? And what are your goals? And are you aligned with them? You know, if you want your kids to know the grandparents and, you know, be around them a lot, are you taking the efforts to either get back home or live closer to grandparents? So personal side, that it's also, do your values align with your company's values? Are you proud to be there? Are you proud to tell your family and friends where you work and how great the company is? On the personal side, there are a couple things. One, we talked about strengths. And, you know, really assessing what are your strengths? Do they align with both your job, but also your career paths? And different ways of assessing strengths are, if you're recently out of school, talking to professors or coaches, if you were a sports team, reaching out to family and saying, hey, you've known me forever. What do you think I'm really good at? And then also there are assessments you can take that help you really crystallize your strengths and also tell you where you would be set up for success with those strengths. So that's one thing. The other thing is culture. You know, if you're in a company where the culture fits with you, you feel natural. You don't feel like you have to fake it to make it. You feel like you can walk in and be yourself and that you are appreciated and applauded. If you're in the wrong culture, it's a struggle every day. I've had candidates say to me, I have to pull over to the side of the road and cry before I go to work to make it through a day. And
Let me just tell you right there, Kris, you do not need to be walking in the building if you are in tears. I used to tell school leaders, principals, educators, if you're sitting in the parking lot, Kris, and you are in your car praying and hoping that the person next to you is not going to be there, and you look over that person may be doing the same thing. They may be praying and hoping that you're not going to be there. It's time for a new profession, new career, or maybe just a new area, a new building, or a new job to work in. Can you unpack that a little more? Because many of us are working in these spots, places where we are unhealthy. We're unhealthy because there's some unhealthy things taking place. We're killing ourselves. We don't like the people that we're around. We don't like the jobs. We don't really like ourselves, and we are stuck. Help us get unstuck, Kris. What are some of the things that we should start doing right now to get unstuck? Because, Kris, somebody is sitting, they may not be sitting in a car right now. They might be virtually waiting. I'm sitting right here waiting to click this Zoom meeting or Meetups or Google Classrooms or whatever technology. I got to click this button one more time. If I see Miss Jones in this class, if I see Mr. So, what are some things we could do to get unstuck, to really start to live our full potential and enjoy not only just life, but our careers and our jobs? That's
a great question. So if you're feeling like that, you need to, like you said, unpack why. What is it? Is it a bad boss? Which truthfully, I have had a bad boss. And it's like having a black cloud over your head when you don't have somebody who supports you, but really, is out to get you. It's really uncomfortable. So is it a bad boss? Is it a culture that doesn't align? Is it, what is it? So try to unpack that, and also think back to past jobs where you have thrived, and what is it about those cultures? Whether it's a school or a job, what is it that got you excited on Sunday night versus staying up all night because you were dreading going in? So I think that's the first thing. Now, most people, when they realize they're in a culture that doesn't align with them, don't have the flexibility, the finances to say adios.
Yeah, I was going to say that somebody's listening like, all right, sister, I hear you.
Right.
But, I can't go. I have 3 kids. COVID is
right.
all around us, technology. Where do we go?
So there are 2 different things you can do. One, internally, if there are people who are more senior who you've connected with them, reach out to them internally and ask for advice, and ask them on help on how to navigate a bad boss. If, just ask for their advice, and ask them if they'd be your mentor to help you navigate the rough waters you're going through. And that's a really great thing. The other thing is, while you are sitting in your job, take the opportunity to network externally. So believe it or not, many schools, high schools, colleges, grad schools, they have alumni offices, and they have people that have gone to your school, so you have a connection with them that are in your industry, and you can reach out to them and very productively network that with them, asking for if they share their journey and what they've learned along the way. And if they'll then ask you about yours, and you can tell them that you're open to hearing things. So if they hear anything or know anybody, it's really a 2-way street, but that'll open some doors. It sounds weird and many people are uncomfortable, but we're doing it via Zoom now, industry events where you can meet up with people and you can have individual chats. And again, don't go to any of these saying, can you get me a job? Have it a 2-way street, but build those relationships. And when roles open up, they will reach out to you. So those are a couple things you can do to try to ease the pain and look for new avenues. While you can't just do it full time, you absolutely should make networking a muscle that you develop, because when you need it, you want to be able to activate it.
Well, with everything being conducted on Zoom now due to COVID, how can people make the best impression over a video interview? How can they do that?
So there are a couple things. The first thing I will tell you is, I don't think anybody should do any interviewing without doing an enormous amount of homework. So homework on yourself, be able to crystallize your stories, how you've developed success, and bring them to life so people understand and believe it. You also want to do homework on the company, because believe it or not, their ego is involved as well. So you want to be able to articulate why you're so interested in them. So that's independent of the type of interviews.
And that's so important. I love when people come on the show. Like you just said, I've listened to a couple of shows. I know you typically start out with because it is almost like an ego boost. Like, Kris has listened to my show. So it is an ego boost, but it shows the person that you're really prepared to have a conversation with them about their company, about what you know, about what you don't know. I think sometimes even to say, hey, I read this, but I'm sort of confused about that. So I agree with you. Doing the homework on anything, but Kris, we become so lazy. We just think because we have a degree, you went to 2 great schools. I went to Tufts, I went to Northwestern, so boom, I'm supposed to be hired. But we know the reality is it's not that easy. And especially now with what we're doing right now, sometimes this can almost seem like a false narrative with all the bells and whistles in the background and all the lighting and all the background images. It's still kind of hard to make a connection with a person who virtually I can't reach out and touch you, because we are social animals, right?
Right.
And I hate when people say they're socially distant. I always tell people physically distant, because we're social creatures. Yeah. And the handshake and the pat on the back or the wave, it's kind of, it really is difficult for some people who are trying to do this thing virtually. So you're giving us some tips on that. Also with that, do you have some other some other interview tips that you want to share, but then also what are the best tips to make my resume stand out? So continue with those tips, but then also the resume standing out.
So continuing with the Zoom interview, you want to spend time ahead of time, making sure you take care of, like, mind your background, make sure it's appropriate and clean and not distracting. You want to make sure technology's right and that your audio's good. You want to get on 5 or 10 minutes ahead of time to make sure internet's set. You look okay, that, I don't know, don't have stuff in your teeth, whatever it is. Then you want
Please don't have stuff in your teeth.
Right. Because
you just want to say,
right. It's true, because it would be very distracting and somebody would have a really hard time listening.
So when you said that, I had to take out my phone, like, see if there was, I'm like, is Kris talking about me or is she just really giving some strategy?
No. Then a couple things also you want to do are make sure the camera is such that you're looking at the camera and not distracted. You want to, it's weird, this is a combination of two things. One, you want to have more energy on a video interview. And anybody who's in radio will tell you, radio versus TV will tell you, TV, it's almost a little delayed, so you have to be more energetic. That being said, when you stop talking or the person you're talking to stops talking, wait for a second, because it's really easy to talk over somebody. You don't have the cues that you might in an in-person interview. So those are the key things that I would tell you about video interviewing, which we're all doing now, and our clients are even hiring from video interviewing and onboarding people. So it is prevalent, and I don't think it's going to go away. I think it is going to be the wave of the future. Companies will bring people in for the final round, but for everything else, they're going to save time and money, make it much more efficient, and this is the future.
I agree. So stop fighting it. Just like when you're surfing, just go along with the wave. So talk about the best tips to make my resume sort of stand out compared to other people.
Yes. So the first thing I'll tell you is you do not want it to stand out because it's different. You don't want it to be fancy. You don't want your picture on it. Put your LinkedIn, ID, and they can go look at your picture on LinkedIn. But you want your resume to be clear and clean and very clearly and succinctly tell them where you've been and what you've done. So I believe that resumes should be, you think about resume kind of like a newspaper. What people will do, if you can get your resume in somebody's hand, is they'll read the headlines and then say, from the headlines, which are the companies you've worked at, the schools you've been to, do I want to read further? And then if they've seen the progression and the companies and the schools that impress them, they look at your titles. And they look for two things. One, what have you done? So, you want to write things in leadership prose, action-oriented, led, develop, create, initiate. Don't do passive. And then you want to do, wherever you can, cover the things, the responsibilities you've had, wherever you can, build in results. That says you did it and you did it well. And that differentiates somebody who's mediocre from somebody who's superior.
So I cringe, Kris, I cringe a little bit when you said, don't send a photo, but go to my IG Instagram. Now, I'm sure you know why I'm cringing, because social media, not only just young people, millennials, older people, more seasoned, I'm cringing because as I go and speak to college students all the time, I'm telling them, be mindful of your social media pages. I just spoke to 50 students on Thursday and Friday, first year, about images and things like that. And I said, if you want to friend me on Instagram or Facebook, I said, as soon as I see some breast shots or some butt shots or all of this other stuff, I said, I'm going to unfriend you. I said, but you need to be mindful because there are people that are watching you. Can you unpack that just a little bit for not only just millennials, because I don't like to give people labels, but when you said Instagram photo, what are some things people should be mindful of when they are going after to be interviewed for a new employer and they ask them about their social media? And can companies hold that against you and I know legally probably not, but can they hold that against you? Because first of all, Kris, listen, you went to Northwestern. That's all I need to say. Chicago. I went to school in Louisiana. People pulled up some photos from when I was in college. Nobody would ever, like, you work with children and you did that. So can you talk about that whole social media connection when it comes to those images?
Absolutely. So the first thing I tell you is I would never tell you to put your Instagram on your resume. The LinkedIn profile, that is what you put on.
Let's go there.
That being said, companies aren't going to waste their time in first interviews going to search you out on Facebook or Instagram. That being said, before they hire you, many companies do. And they can find you. They can find you via technology today. And I agree with you completely, Lamar. You do not want to have anything inappropriate up there. Doesn't have to be completely professional. You can be with your friends and you can, show your dog on Facebook or Instagram, and all of that is great. But any of that inappropriate stuff is going to make them question whether your values align with theirs and may cost you the job. So I tell you, when you're looking for a job, clean it up.
Yeah,
they
will find. I mean, think about the people that have sent you pictures from like elementary, middle, high school, pictures that you don't even want to be reminded of the braces, the pimples, the acne, the hair, all of those things. And like, do I really want this? So I just want to encourage you all to really be mindful about those images, because images are very, very important. Now I want to talk about your book, because your book called Ignite Your Career. I want to unpack one word. You said strategies and tactics to unleash your potential. Now, potential is a big, big word, and potential can mean a lot to people. Give me your definition of potential, and then what are some questions that people can ask to figure out if I'm actually living up to my potential?
So potential is, I believe, leveraging your strengths and really being able to aspire to the greatest you.
I love that.
So that's really why I wrote this. I can only talk to so many people in a day, but the book and the services can reach so much broader audience. And I think the need is there. So that is it. And I think question for people, are you reaching your potential, is, are you satisfied? Are you proud? Are you happy? Are you appreciated? Do you feel like the company recognizes the value? And if the answer to all those things are no, I'm just slogging it out to make a paycheck, you need to take a big step back and assess, what are those strengths? Where might they be leveraged to help you deliver success in an organization that aligns with your values?
And you nailed it, because I say beyond all the motivational quotes, beyond the songs, beyond the mantras, ask yourself some of the questions, and you ask some of those questions. And I'm not saying to anybody, I love mantras, I love songs, I love motivational quotes, but it's really about asking yourself those questions to really, really get you to ignite. I love the title, Ignite Your Career. What was the inspiration with the book? And then what did you discover, Kris, about yourself when you start writing the book? Because again, I'm an author. When you start to write, you think that you're writing for other people, and then all of your stuff comes out. So what did you discover about yourself while writing the book? And then what do you want people to walk away? Once they close the book, you want them to do, say what?
Cool. All right. So first of all, why did I write the book? So 15 years ago, somebody invited me to go speak at Washington University here in St. Louis at their business school. And great school and great career center. And I went and spoke to the kids, and they were so excited. And it's not that the Career Center didn't offer things, but I realized how hungry they were. And so I've been doing that for 15 years. I have 3 kids who have either graduated college or are currently in college at top liberal arts schools, and I've gone and presented to them as well. And same thing.
Wait, you presented to your kids' school?
Yeah.
How was that?
You know what? My kids were not in the session, so it was great. Had they been in the session, they would have heard the wah, wah, wah,
Like, I heard this, Mom. I've heard this before.
Right.
I've already heard this.
So doing that, I also presented to Kellogg Business School alumni, and then I also presented to some doctors. A friend of mine was a doctor and was working with his fellows, wanted to help them be successful interviewing. So I started thinking about this book almost 15 years ago. And then when my baby went to college 3 years ago, truthfully, it threw me for a loop. And so I worked with a personal coach. And what came out of that was, he's like, you talk about this book and you light up like a Christmas tree. What is holding you back?
That's passion.
So that was the motivation and the kick in the pants I needed. So as I started writing this book, the two things I wanted to do was I wanted to leave a legacy. I wanted to, take the knowledge I have gained over the last 25 years and share it with the world. And I also wanted it to be really approachable, relatable, and actionable. I cannot read dense business books, but ones that are engaging and have stories, I devour. And so I wanted to write that book. So as I wrote this book, it was like, it was like sharing my knowledge with my friends and my family and my kids and the greater universe. And I'll tell you, as I wrote the conclusion, I did a lot of 4 a.m. because I'm better in the morning. As I wrote the conclusion, sitting down with my dog, like head on my lap, I wrote the end of it and I just started bawling because it was such a labor of love. And I'm really proud of, I think, what it's going to do in the marketplace, how it's going to help people.
And so what did you discover about yourself, and what do you want people to walk away with once they close the book?
I discovered that, I have a passion for this and much beyond this. I love recruiting, but I don't want to just help marketing and market research. I really want to help the world. And I think there is such a need, for young professionals, for college kids, for people who are struggling and want to do career changes. So, and that it's really important to me to give them the knowledge and the information they need to be successful in life. And I don't want people to have to wait 13 years like I did to figure out their path. Man, can you imagine if you stepped onto the correct path out of the blocks, how much higher you could go?
Let me just tell you, I used to marvel at my classmates in college who knew as soon as they stepped on the campus what they wanted to do. I marveled at them, and many of them are successful. And I'm not downing people who were like me, who took many paths, because just like most people in the world, we sort of learn throughout the process. But I used to marvel at people who knew this is what they wanted to do. They've always wanted to do it. They studied it. They researched. They had mentors. I would tell people, that ain't my testimony. Right. Mine is totally different. And it's not to judge anybody, but I would be like, wow, you are really, really serious. And so I do appreciate you sort of saying that we do want to provide this stuff so people don't have to take longer. But it's nothing wrong taking longer, because think about the people, the places, the people you meet, the places you go, and not the mistakes, I call them the lessons that you learn. So speaking of lessons, for listeners who have a career but want to change, how can they best transition to a new field? And then how can my listeners then determine which job may be the best for them? So how can you pivot and go to a different career? What did that process look like? And then how do you then determine what's the best job for me?
Those are great and truthfully very challenging questions.
We like challenging here, Kris. Yeah. We're from the Midwest.
It's true. The show me state.
The show me state. My roommate tell me show me. I'm from the show. I said, dude, listen, I'm gonna show you. All right.
So how does somebody pivot? So what I would tell you is, in the book, I talk about this, that there are 3 phases in your career. There's learn, do, and leverage. And at the learning phase, everything you do is new. It's hard. The first time you do it, you got to, it's a struggle. By the 10th time, you got it. So, once you learn the skills, you shift to the doing phase. A lot of those people who you're saying may not be satisfied, may be in the doing phase right now, but in the doing phase in the wrong career. So what you're going to have to do is go back to what I said with the strengths, go back and figure out your strengths and places you can go. Then think about, what are the skills that I've developed here in this role, in this career path that I could shift over to one of those other career paths that aligns more with my strengths. So it might be not the nuts and bolts of the job, but it might be the leadership, the project management, the strategic, the analytical things that will let you transition to a new career. And while you're still going to be learning some new skills because you've shifted over, you're going to start off a whole bunch higher than somebody else who hasn't developed all those skills you did in the doing phase. So you're going to have to likely, if you shift careers, take one step back to go two steps forward in the right career path, and know it will be worth it because you're investing in yourself.
I like how you talked about what are some things that I learned, because I think about my daughter who she's a college student. Everything is virtual with her now. And she worked at one fast food and another fast food. And she left this other one. And I said to her, stop downing the company that you just left, because there are some things that you learned that really propelled you, or that really supporting you in the work that you're doing. And I wish that most of us become more reflective. I think the older that I get in my work and my walk, that I'm becoming more reflective. And I think about the little things, like when she came, and you see it transitioning, when she was sweeping, let's just say she was sweeping the kitchen, which is very rare for my children, okay? But she does it for a check at her job, which I would not name because they're not one of our sponsors. But she grabbed the broom and said, this is how we do it at our restaurant. I was like, if I would have known that it all it took was for you to get a job to learn how to sweep, I would have hired you a long time ago. But you are so right, Kris. You're saying is that remember what you learned, and then sort of do it, and then take it to the next phase. Because again, even though it's a bad dead-end job, you hate it or what have you, there are some things that we learn. And as a researcher in my research field, I hate deficit models. I hate when people say, well, there's so many people that are not doing this. So I said, well, let's look at an anti-deficit and look at some of the things that are actually working. And so I'm so glad that you sort of elevated those things. What are some final thoughts that you have for our listeners today?
Well, I would tell your listeners that everybody is going through these tough times.
Yes.
And, now is the time, even if you can't get the job of your dreams, to do the homework so you know what the job of your dreams is. Many people I know are making ends meet working wherever, but then they're also reaching out to family, friends, or acquaintances and saying, hey, do you have any project work I could do, or an internship? I don't care if it's paid. I'm looking for the experience, so that when you come out of this and the cloud dissipates, you have some experience you can put on your resume that will help you get that dream job. The other thing I will tell you is nobody can do the work for you. Like, that's what I say in my book over and over. I can give you the tools and I can tell you what to do, but you've got to do the work. And so if you're not willing to do the work on yourself, then where are you going to work? This is an investment in you today and in the future. So those are the key things. The other thing, as you said, the book is out there. We have a website for people who maybe their resume, they can't get it there themselves, or the resume is good, but they're bombing in interviews. And so if people go to igniteyourcareerbook.com, you can see all those services as well. But what I would leave your folks with and your constituents with is be productive. Take this time to invest in yourself, to grow, to do the things that are going to set you up for success so you can hit the ground running as we come out of this pandemic.
I love it, Kris. And listeners, listen, I hope that Kris answered these questions to help you unlock your potential for success, for a successful life and a personal life, as well as in your career. Kris, thanks for joining me in the BalmShelter. But before you leave, the second part of my show is called the Super Balm Questions. You provided a wealth of information that I'm hoping and knowing that my listeners are going to check it out and they're going to pick up your book. But before you leave, the Super Balm Questions are questions that my listeners want to know a little bit more about who you are as an individual. So you ready, Kris?
Okay, I'm ready.
All right, so you got to answer them as quickly as possible. So Kris Holmes, here we go. What is your favorite word?
Together.
What is your favorite quote, or it can be a spiritual verse from some holy book?
Oh, you know what? It's probably from Eleanor Roosevelt. nobody can make you feel, oh, I'm trying to remember it. Nobody can make you feel less than you are without your permission. It's something like that. I don't remember it exactly.
I love that. What's your spirit animal?
I guess it's a jumbo for toughs.
Aha, okay. What's your superpower?
Connectivity.
What brings you to tears of joy?
Connecting on a deep level and being real.
What brings you to tears of sorrow?
Losing someone or an animal. I've lost 2 animals during the pandemic.
Sorry.
And just, whether I do or somebody else does, some loss that no matter what, you can't get back.
Sorry about the loss.
Thank you.
What do you wish you had more time to do?
I would say spend quality time with friends. I'm lucky, just like we all are. This has been wonderful family-wise, and my older kids have come back for periods, and I'm so blessed. But I think building the friendships and being able to invest in them as well.
Love that. What is the book or books that you've given the most as a gift, and why?
There's a book, I believe it's called Drop in Your Bucket, or what the idea behind it is, every interaction you have either fills your bucket or takes away from it. And so surround yourself with work and personal with people who fill your bucket versus taking away from it. And I love that book.
Is it How Full Is Your Bucket?
Yeah, maybe that's it.
Yeah, it's a book that I use with some teachers. Yeah. What deceased person that you would like to meet to get advice from? If you had an opportunity to meet one deceased person who would most like to meet, what would you ask them?
It might be, with everything going on today, Abraham Lincoln. And how did he have the fortitude and the foresight to stand up for what he did way back when?
All right. Now, what is your morning routine?
Get up at like 6, somewhere between 6 and 6:30, and exercise of some sort. I have a Peloton, go for a walk, treadmill, something, because when I don't do it, I almost feel hungover. So it's how I start my day. I'm much better in the morning. By 5 or 6 o'clock, my brain turns off. So trying to be as productive as I can in the morning, but get that exercise, I think, for endorphins and everything else.
If you were in the Miss America talent competition, Kris Holmes, what would your talent be?
Certainly not singing. You know what? Connecting with people on the phone.
I love it, Kris. It has been a joy and a pleasure to hang out with you in the BalmShelter today. I learned so much more about you. Please go to her website, pick up her book, You Will Be Blessed. She will work with you to help you develop your career or even shift your career, help you build your resume to be more presentable. So thank you, Kris, for joining me today.
Thank you, Lamar, so much.
And I also want to thank my Haitian brother, my super duper producer, engineer, Alexander Blanc, Nicole, for, providing me with all the research on our great people. I also want to thank Supremacy for our theme music, and all of you for listening. We cannot do this without you. Please leave a comment. Go to iTunes. Let us know how we're doing. If you want to know more about me, if you want to pick up any of our merchandise, our Ubuntu shirts, go to drlds.com. drlds.com. And as always, do something for someone other than yourself today. Please give back. Check on our elders. Stay safe. But always remember that someone on the other end loves you. Thanks for tuning in. And you've been listening to Sound Bombing. Peace.
Bye.